Hello, welcome to Secure Talk, your trusted source of information on the latest threats, trends, tools, and technology related to cybersecurity and compliance. Join our hosts as they discuss a wide range of topics and speak with leading cybersecurity, technology, and compliance experts. Now is the time for Secure Talk.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Secure Talk, brought to you by adaQuest, your cybersecurity and compliance partner. My name is Mark Schreiner, and I'm going to be your host for this episode of Secure Talk. And today we're going to do something very special. We are actually going to take you through a role-play exercise with some of the cybersecurity experts at adaQuest. And we're going to kind of walk you through the typical process of what a company or the conversation a company might have with some cybersecurity experts to understand maybe what gaps they might have, give them some ideas in terms of some protections they may want to implement. And, a typical process might go on for a couple meetings and involve several emails. We're going to kind of condense that down and maybe take you through a kind of a 30-minute example or role play. Before we get started, though, I'd like to take a couple minutes and just introduce my colleagues from adaQuest who will be participating in the call, and maybe give you your name, your title, and a little bit about your background in the context of your cybersecurity expertise or role or experience. Over to you guys. Who's on the call?
I'm Paul Johnson. My main focus is on GDPR compliance and security.
Excellent. And GDPR, for people who don't know, is the General Data Protection Regulations that come out of the EU and govern how companies treat data that relates to EU residents and how companies protect that data. Next.
Hi, I'm Christoph Kohl. I'm solution architect for adaQuest, and I'm most likely specialized on cloud migration, Office 365, and Office 365 security tune-up.
Okay, thank you, Christoph. And next.
And I'm Dave Duklin. I'm also a security solution architect, but I focus on CISO for hire type support opportunities.
Excellent. And yes?
And this is Hiram Machado. At adaQuest, I focus on conversations with strategic conversations about cybersecurity with our clients.
Excellent. Well, hey guys, thank you for introducing yourself, and thank you for taking time to join our program today. Why don't we just get started? I'm going to jump into character. I am playing a newly appointed CISO or CTO or CIO type person. I've just joined my organization. I've been on board, less than a couple months. It's a mid-sized organization. I've got about 1,000 people or colleagues that I work with. I'm responsible for maintaining the integrity and security of our IT infrastructure. We have offices in several locations around the U.S. We have an office in a couple European cities as well. And I have a couple of issues. One is I have identified some challenges, which is, for example, there's no existing documentation for what type of hardware or even what type of data we have. But I understand that I need to get to work on that. I could probably use some ideas or assistance. I also have an idea of things that maybe I don't know. For example, I just mentioned the hardware. I don't actually know what hardware that I've inherited. But then there's some unknown unknowns. I mean, there are probably some issues out there that I don't even know or I'm not even aware of that I need to address. And I'm really scrambling to get kind of caught up and get my mind around what I have and maybe, implement some quick wins to firm up my our IT security, or at least identify some gaps, and then put together a roadmap. And so I'm kind of feeling a little bit of anxiety right now because it's just like I feel really exposed. And so I want to. That's why I invited you guys to come into this conversation. And you guys tell me what information can I share with you, and let's just kind of kick it back and forth.
Assuming that we are under NDA already, right?
Yes, we're under NDA.
Okay, well, because this is the first step.
Okay.
Because sensitive information could be shared between you and us. So this would be the first step to establish between you and us a non-disclosure agreement, just to make sure that everything's going to stay between us.
Okay.
So assuming that we're under NDA. Okay. Yep.
Yes, under NDA. So next.
I have one question.
Sure.
It deals with personally identifiable information that you might or might not have. Do you have any feeling for how much PII you might have in your organization that needs to be protected and where it comes from?
Well, that's an interesting question. Are you relating the PII, or personally identifiable information? Is that related to the GDPR that you were talking about in terms of your role? Is that why you're asking that question? Okay, so here's what I know, and then again, and then there's some things that I don't know. As I mentioned, we have a couple offices in Europe, and we have all of the HR data related to our employees. Okay, and I would assume, I mean, you have to tell me, but I would assume that some of that data falls under GDPR. But I also know that we have client data. And then there might be other data out there that that would fall under GDPR, because I think that's what you're asking about. So I mean, is that HR data, is that relevant, and what else should we be looking for?
I think it probably would be relevant because they're EU residents if they actually live in the EU.
Okay.
So they would be covered in regulation.
Okay, so let's just start with that, because I mean, then we can come back to later in terms of you helping me understand what other data might fall under this. But for that PII that you mentioned of our European employees, okay, so we identify that data. What kind of steps would we have to take to move us closer towards compliance? What things should we be thinking about?
How you protect the information, where the information is stored, what types of controls you have on access to the information. There are a lot of requirements with GDPR that require you to have a really good idea of where the information is and how to delete it. Say, if one of the people who's living in the EU says they want you to forget their information, you're required to forget that information and delete it.
And a good start point, Paul, I think would be probably some sort of data discovery where we can pretty much create an inventory of where that data might reside in your organization, in which systems they are, so you can work through applying the appropriate controls and security measures on that data. Would that be right?
Yeah, locating it is definitely the first step. You have to do some kind of an assessment, figure out where it all is, and make an inventory of all the data.
Mm-hmm. And that inventory, there is two aspects of that inventory. There is the aspect of identifying the data in itself, right? But once you identify, I understand there are mechanisms in which you can use to auto-classify that data. So you actually classify all of your data with either having sensitive or not having sensitive information. So we can then apply the right controls on the right data set. Would that be?
Yes.
Yep.
So you're saying basically we have to run some type of scan, or we map out what data we have, and then we classify that data and attach certain, I guess, labels to it that would enact some type of policy. Can you give me an example of what that would look like in a real situation? And let's just focus on that HR data right now. What would it look like in terms of, once we have done this, we've implemented something like this, what would the end result look like for us?
Well, you have some type of defined tags. Say in the US, it would be social security number, or in Europe, they must have some type of government identifying number that you would classify, and then use that. Any record that has that particular format in it would end up being classified as sensitive data for that country.
Okay, and then if it's classified as sensitive, would that force our people to what would it do?
So you can set up basically a retention policy. So documents that contains this kind of information could be stored for 5 years and then be automatically deleted after this retention policy. You can also specify who has access. I mean, define policy of who has access to these documents, so you can restrict the access to this kind of document, which have been automatically discovered. This is the kind of thing that you could do with discovery tools or specific AIP tools, which is access identity protections tools. These are two really good examples, and this is what you should do with this is what you should do with the GDPR. So first, you have to know where your data is located, and you have to know what content they host, basically, and who has access to it.
And I think it's important to highlight that labeling and protection controls, you want to do that on the file level and make sure that you have the technology in place that allows those labels and controls to travel with the file. The modern organization most likely will produce the file in one environment, and there is a good chance that that file will navigate through the different devices, whether it's an iPhone, whether it's an Android, a tablet, and you want to make sure that those controls and those labels are traveling through with the file, and the appropriate application of those controls will take place wherever that file may be open.
Okay, excellent. So what I'm hearing is the first thing I'm going to need to do is do some type of data discovery process, and maybe some type of assessment to understand, what we have, and then implement some policies. Okay, so that's related to our data for EU residents. Okay, so I'm putting on my list here to kind of circle back with you at the end, because I'm assuming that you guys provide that type of service, some type of data discovery assessment or scan. Is that a correct assumption?
Yes, that's right.
Okay, so I'm going to put that on my my to-do list here, and I will kind of come back to that at the end here. What other things that should I be looking at? I mean, one of the things I'm concerned about is I don't even know, what hardware we have. I've got, like I said, close to 1,000 colleagues. I don't know, some of these people are bringing their own devices. I don't know what apps, they're using, company apps. I don't know. I don't understand that. What should I be looking at?
So basically you want to do a hardware inventory of your network. So for this specific purpose, you run an inventory scan using specific tools. Here at adaQuest, for example, we use Movier, which is a web-based tool, which is what you have to pay. It's a monthly subscription, but which will discover basically what server you have on your network, what workstation you have on your network, and it's going to go deeper than that. It's going to investigate on what specific software you have installed on the different hardware assets, so servers, whether they are physical machines or whether they are VMs, so virtual machines. And the discovery will
operating system and patch levels, so which machines are in compliance and which ones are out of compliance.
So it's going to go deeper. So at the software level, it's going to run inventory as well on the users. Knows it will discover, for example, if the password has not been reset for for users from a long time, and this kind of activity. So basically, you will run an inventory, network inventory, to help you to discover what you have as assets on your network.
Wow, how intrusive is that, or how difficult is it, and how much time does it take? Because I'm pretty anxious about this. It's like I really don't know what we have, right? So tell me, what's that process look like?
So to be a little bit technical, so you would need global admin access. So you would need access to the network.
And it's done securely. Everything that's moved around is encrypted.
Okay, and how long does this process take?
So basically, you can get a first overview of your network in minutes, but it's recommended to run this scan for a few days, weeks, because since the scan is gonna go onto at the desktop level, so you want to make sure that all users, for example, is gonna log at least once on their desktop. So, and the longer the better. So, but you would get some useful information in minutes, hours.
Excellent. Okay. So I guess I've got two things on my list now. I've got the data discovery scan for that European PII data that that would fall under GDPR. I've got the this scan that you're using a tool called Movier to allow me to identify all the hardware that's being used, different applications that are being used, etc. Okay, so that's definitely two things that I want to come back to. What about
Can I add something on this discovery tool? I mean, this network topology tool. So since it's going to go deeper in at the software level, so it's going to also identify if you're compliant with your software licensing. So, for example, if you have some server which are outdated, so this is first a security issue, because potentially these servers are weak from external attacks, and second off. You may be out of license compliance, and maybe someone won't be happy at one point and will go after you. So this is also one good thing. I mean, one positive feature of this network topology tool, to basically know where you are from a licensing point of view.
Well, that's a good point, and I'd prefer to find out now than 6 months or a year from now, because I mean, right now it's kind of I've got a blank slate, and I want to be able to report to my boss, hey, here are the issues, and I need to be able to kind of document everything in a very clear manner. Okay, so let's put that to the side, because I definitely will come back to that. One thing that you kind of triggered in my mind was, when you're doing this scan, I mean, we don't even have a patch policy. I don't know, when we do patches. I don't think there is a patch policy. I've asked the team, what are your guys, what's your suggestions or ideas in terms of, information sources for out of date equipment or versions of apps, or applications that need to be patched? I mean, how do I get, what are some best practices around that?
You've got two things going here at the same time. You are talking about vulnerability assessments to know what patch levels you need to be applying.
Yes.
That is certainly another operational aspect of something you would want to do. But in parallel to all of this, you need to be developing a set of procedures. You need to first canvass your organization to find out what policies and procedures already exist. Then you need to put together a plan of what are the minimum set of security policies. Now, your patch level policy is one that you want to establish. If you do not get that established, you will be behind the 8 ball trying to create patches every week, every month, every whenever, and you won't have the organization bought into your overall practice of that. When you talk about PII information, you need to have an acceptable use policy for data so that anybody who captures this information, whether it's in a database, an email, or a document, that they understand what it is and how to deal with it. So you're not always trying to clean up last week's mess and never getting ahead of the game. So policies are something to create, as well as doing what we've already talked about are some of these initial operational aspects that you can do.
And that's
and one,
go ahead. I'm sorry.
yeah, sorry. And one thing I want to add on top of it. So you talked about applications. So you don't know what is the patch level of your application. So maybe you want to first put in place a policy that that is a list of authorized application, because maybe your user's gonna use Word for as a Word editor, but maybe something else which will not be as protected as Word or Microsoft different tools. So you want to discover what apps, applications are used in your organization. This is the first step. Then you may need to put in place policies to limit the execution of certain applications.
Okay.
Or just to avoid, because they are known to be weak against threats or vulnerabilities.
So excellent. So let me ask you this: can you assist me both with putting together the appropriate policies and procedures? I'm sure that you guys have some kind of templates or some type of, best practices around that. Can you help me with that? And then also, I have no idea how to keep my mind around or to keep aware or abreast of what patches are available. I hear about these organizations that get hacked or have an intrusion basically because they failed to install a patch, but they didn't know that the patch was out there. So can you guys help with that? What either or both of those?
One of the things that the Movare scan does on your network is identifies which patch level each one of the machines has, and any missing patches are flagged, and you can get a report that shows you which patches need to be installed, which are the oldest patches that need to be installed, which machines are the most out of date, and that's a really useful report.
Okay, excellent. And then in terms of setting up the policies and procedures, can you guys assist with that as well?
Yes, of course.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Okay, so go ahead.
And related to your infrastructure, how much of your IT infrastructure is on-premise versus in the cloud?
Yeah, this is a big question.
Yeah, right now we are about 75% on-prem and about 25% on the cloud. We're using I would call it a tier 2 cloud service provider, just because from what I was told, they had the most affordable, hosting package. I don't think we're married to them, but if there's, and I should say that operationally, we're looking at moving more to the cloud. But I got to ask you guys. I guess this could be a whole conversation in itself. But give me the quick rundowns of some advantages or disadvantages of moving everything to the cloud, or at least most of it to the cloud. Any quick wins or reasons that we should look at that?
So yes, so basically, if you have your assets in the cloud, so you don't have to manage it. You don't have to manage the hardware. So from a patch point of view as well, when you're in the cloud, so everything's going to be patched automatically without doing anything, basically. other than you saying, yes, I want to patch it because, you may not want to reboot your server once every week. But it's gonna the patch won't. It's not supposed to be a problem. So you would have the latest version of the OS of the patch whenever it is available on the market. So this is one really big thing, big advantage to be on the clouds. The infrastructures, basically, you're not responsible for the infrastructures yourself. You put the responsibility or the accountability on your cloud provider, which could be a really big thing. Basically, won't be done on your server, but on the server which is hosted by the cloud provider. So if you see where the difference is, so it's a pretty big difference. Basically, you can put the blame on your cloud provider if your VM or your SQL server has been compromised due to weakness on their side.
So, what about costs? I mean, security. Basically what you're saying is, I gain some advantages in terms of outsourcing a lot of the security work when I go with a cloud provider, right? I move everything to the cloud. How about costs? Do you have any kind of general information?
Yes, you could expect the cost to be lower as well, because you can save on human resources. So this is one point. You can save also on hardware because you don't have the physical hardware on premise as well. So, but and you would pay exactly for what you would use. So in the on-premise world, basically, you would oversize your workload just to make sure that everything's going to fit, and because you don't want to upgrade your hardware every 2 months or 6 months, so you would oversize. So you would pay a little bit more to have more. But on the cloud, basically, you would pay for what you use and not more, just what you need. So this is another big advantage to be on the cloud, and this has an impact on the cost.
Excellent. Okay, guys, I don't want to take up too much of your time, so I just have a couple more questions. One is, I've heard a lot about Office 365, and if we move to the cloud, we'd probably move everything to Office 365 as well. But from a cybersecurity or a security standpoint, am I going to have to buy some extra tools, or are there some tools baked into Office 365 to help with security?
Yes, of course. So I'm assuming that you don't have Office 365 right now?
No, we're just using Exchange.
Okay, and regular. I mean, the regular Office in 2013 or 2016.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. So if you move to Office 365, so first, again, you would always have the latest version. It's super easy to reduce the number or increase the number of license for your tenant in Office 365, and you will have access to lots of different security controls, DLP, so data loss protections, for example, on multi-factor authentication, for example, so which is the big thing actually in the security world, which had a complementary security level to access your Office 365 tools like Word, Excel, PowerPoint, etc. And on Office 365 you will get many different features that would allow you to increase your security level.
Excellent. Okay, so I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, control and auditing. So it will provide control and auditing tools as well.
Okay. This has been really, really helpful. So I want to come back to you and talk about specific programs related to GDPR. I want to come back to you and talk to you about data protection. some type of scan so I can know what type of hardware and software that we currently have, what patches need to be looked at. And then I want to talk to you about this cloud migration and also considering Office 365. So I think we've got several areas there to follow up on. Any last questions or suggestions from your side on something that we haven't touched upon?
Yeah, I think one important point to highlight is how security have changed in regard to the cloud only for the past 5 years. So today, when you think about it, 5 years ago, some organizations would make a decision of not going to the cloud, not moving their workloads to the cloud because of security. Today, 5 years later, many organizations are making a decision of moving to the cloud because of security. So security, where it was a concern 5 years ago, it's becoming a strong reasoning why many organizations are actually moving to their workloads to the cloud. Leveraging the cloud, the big cloud providers' capability for securing your assets is one of the biggest points of cloud today. No one can possibly match the level of security investment and security that those big cloud providers are putting around securing the data that they host.
Yeah, well, in our organization though, I mean, we're kind of traditional, and our executive team is pretty senior. And I know that people feel in this organization, they just feel a lot more secure knowing that all of our important data is in our server room and on our servers, right? And we've got the lock and key to that room, right? Nobody gets access to that except for people that we, give access to it. It might be a tough argument, or it might be difficult to persuade them that it's going to be safer on the cloud. I mean, do you have any thoughts around that?
Entering the server room is not done physically nowadays. You enter the server room like remotely. So by first breaching a password from a random user and move laterally to get the admin password, and then once you have the admin password, there's no need for the key of the server room. You're in, and you can do whatever you want. So the cloud, being in the cloud gives you the ability for more control. And prevents you basically to have this to take care of this kind of threat and attacks.
Okay. Well, you know what? I've got those 4 things on my list right now. I definitely want to schedule a follow-up meeting and go deeper into each one of those. And then there's some other areas in terms of device management, app management. I mean, it's really. I feel really challenged right now to get my mind around all this and then be able to kind of put together a roadmap. But this conversation has been very, very helpful. I'd like to thank you guys for your time, and I'm gonna send a follow-up email with additional questions. Is that all right with you?
Sounds good.
Okay, guys. Okay, everybody who was listening, this is Mark again. I'm jumping back out of character from the role play and into character as the host of this episode of Secure Talk. I'd like to thank you all for listening. Hopefully you found this interesting and helpful. These are just some of the it's an example of a conversation that we have with new clients in terms of understanding where they're at and where they want to go. Of course, the conversations are going to go on for a lot longer and they're going to go a lot deeper, but we just wanted to show you, give you kind of an overview of some things that maybe you should be thinking about and some ideas in terms of some potential issues that you might be facing. In follow-up episodes, we might come back and do some more role plays, but for now, we're not going to go too deep. I'd like to thank all the representatives from adaQuest for your participation, and I'd like to thank all the listeners for listening. Again, this has been another episode of Secure Talk. Secure Talk is brought to you by adaQuest, your cybersecurity and compliance partner. Thank you, everybody. Have a great day, and stay safe.
Hello, welcome to Secure Talk, your trusted source of information on the latest threats, trends, tools, and technology related to cybersecurity and compliance. Join our hosts as they discuss a wide range of topics and speak with leading cybersecurity, technology, and compliance experts. Now is the time for Secure Talk.